Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. There's something unique that has been said about Softly and Tenderly, a hymn that is much loved. A hymn writer named Carlton Young described it as a typical lullaby in the gospel tradition that characterizes Jesus as a mother, gently rocking and comforting a child. Now, there's nothing in the hymn itself that calls Jesus a mother, but the tender melody, the yearning for someone to come home, and more, all evoke that image in the mind. Softly and Tenderly was written and composed by Will L. Thompson, who traveled around Ohio and became known as the Bard of Ohio. And this hymn echoes the part of the gospel where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." You'll find that passage in Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30. We're invited in this hymn to find a home from our troubles, worries, and fears in Jesus. The first verse begins, "Softly and tenderly Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. See on the portals he's waiting and watching, watching for you and for me." And it evokes the image of a loving parent seeking, longing for their wayward child to return. You can't help but think of the father in Jesus' parable of the prodigal son. The father was out on his porch day after day, scanning the horizon, looking for his son to return. What an amazing thought that God might look for us the same way. In verse 2, the hymn moves us into the real world where so many things and distractions get in the way of our faith. Why should we tarry when Jesus is pleading for you and for me? Why should we linger and heed not his mercies for you and for me? In this verse, we're invited to consider the things that impede us and keep us from returning to Christ from where we have wandered. It makes no sense to tarry or linger with them when Christ is pleading and yearning for us and has mercy for us. Verse 3 makes this all very explicit. Oh, for the wonderful love he has promised for you and for me. Though we have sinned, he has mercy and pardon for you and for me. No matter how far we have wandered away, Jesus invites us and welcomes us home. Finally, the song has a refrain. Come home, come home. You who are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling. Calling, O sinner, come home. Max Lucado tells a story that is one of my favorites. A poor young girl in Brazil runs away from her home to what she believes will be the glamorous life in the city. Her mother, however, knows that life will be hard there and knows what the girl will be forced to do in order to survive. So she spends as much as she can on photographs of herself. And then she goes to the city and asks if they have a bulletin board in every seedy hotel she can find, and then posts her picture on the board. Finally, her money ran out and she returned home. A few weeks later, the girl, old beyond her years, descends the stairs in a hotel and sees a familiar face. She takes the picture off the bulletin board, and on the back it says, "Whatever you have done, whoever you have become, it doesn't matter. Come home." That's the invitation Jesus has for us. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.